Right, good day all. So, moving on to Surah 33, Surah al-Ahzab, right? And this is the companies or the combined forces. Now, I want to make it clear that one of the reasons why I suggest reading the Quran, although for some people it might be a challenge, depending on your life and karma and so on, right? It might be a challenge, like it was for me, to complete it, right? But one of the reasons I want to suggest that people read it is because what it makes you think about yourself in the context of your virtues, values, principles, morals, right? It makes you think about yourself, not in a selfish way, but in terms of alignment with your virtues, principles, practices, teachings, and so on, and life, the way that you choose to live your life, and why you choose to live your life in this way, right? So it makes you actually align, not be a hypocrite, align yourself with your own morals, your own values, or what you consider, right? It makes you align with what you consider to be your core principles, morals, or at least think about or start thinking about. But by the time you finish, read it and teach it, right? Rest assured, you will not be a hypocrite, right? You will be well aligned with who you say you are. You will be well aligned if you actually take the advice and read it and teach it. You will be, at the end of it, well aligned with who you say you are, right? So the companies or the combined forces. So before, let's talk about this concept of companies or companionship, right? Which is a point in Islam, meaning the prophet and companions, which everybody have heard before, right? Prophet and companions, right? And this is another reason I would suggest adopting a way of life, this way of life, right? At least whether you want to, however you choose to do it, but do it, right? Adopting this way of life, right? In the sense of the concepts, right? Prophet and companions, and I want to draw a reference to in comparison to other religions, Christianity and so on. When I talk about, say, Jesus and disciples, right? There's a point I want to raise a few surahs ago, right? When I talk about like Jesus and disciples, meaning following, or not fellowship, but following, right? And compare that to Islam when they say prophet and companions, right? Meaning that you are an equal, right? So it suggests that the prophet is not given a status that is higher than anybody else, but he makes his companions equals to him, right? Prophet and companions, meaning that those surrounding him is, so people have been asking, oh, well, why is she doing this? Why is she teaching this? Why should I'm explaining why, right? The prophet and companions, right? Meaning that you are on the same status as the prophet once you are surrounding him or following that path, right? Now, Jesus and disciples, right? There is a status connotation to that in a spiritual sense, right? There's a status connotation to this Jesus and disciple, right? In that sense of the word, where I am walking the same path as you, right? I am walking the same path as you, you are walking the same path of me, but you are my disciple, you are my follower, right? I don't want anybody following me, and I don't want to follow anybody else, right? So this is why I more could appreciate the concept of prophet and companions, right? Or just companionship full stop, right? Just companionship full stop, right? Because it equals everybody, right? In a spiritual sense of the word, it equals everybody, right? Right, so that's that. So follow that which has been directly revealed to you from God, right? Rely upon Allah. Sufficient is Allah as disposer of affairs, right? So for those of you who have been experiencing these attacks and so on, remember the favor of Allah upon you when armies came to attack you, right? And you were sent reinforcement, right? Reinforcement by who? Those who, if you consider them angels or humans or anybody, entities who were there to support you whilst you were going through attacks, right? If they're not non-human, human, whatnot, right? Right. Among believers are men true to what they promised to Allah. So if you made a promise to do something, right, something good, if you made a promise to do something good, ensure that good deed is fulfilled, right? Among them is he who has fulfilled his or her vow to the death, and amongst them is he or she who awaits their chance, right? So sometimes we make a promise and people will be like, oh, you will be, hey, well, when, right? Is that there's a time, there's a divine time, and it's not always a case of when we want to do something, or when I want to do something, or when you want to do something, right? Sometimes God prohibits, or the universe, creator of the universe, God prohibits certain things from taking place before it's time. There is something like a divine timing, right? There is something like timing, right? We can't just randomly just up and do something just so on our own. Sometimes it might feel that way because we don't know how reality operates in the background, right? Sometimes it might feel that way, that, oh, we could just choose to act on our own volition, or our own whatever it is, our own senses, right? But we don't understand how life really operates in the background. There is actually a time for things to take place, right? So this is where patience comes in and all kind of thing. You don't even have to rush. You don't have to rush to do anything, right? There's no need to rush, right? And this is obviously, for those who are listening, is not an excuse. It's not to be used as an excuse, right? To delay certain things from taking place when it should at the same time, right? So it's to just listen and know to yourself when this is taking place and how to navigate it, right? So Allah is ever subtle and aware, right? There is not to be upon you any discomfort concerning that which Allah has imposed upon you, right? So if Allah, God, has imposed something or instructed you to do something, right? If there's a instruction to you, there's no need to be uncomfortable about it, right? You carry through with it, carry through with the process, right? Comfortably, right? Carry through with your process comfortably, right? There's no need for you to have any discomfort regarding that which Allah has imposed upon you, right? So sufficient is Allah as an accountant. Whether you reveal a thing or conceal it, Allah is ever aware of all things, knowing, right? So we acknowledge that there is disease in some of our hearts, meaning disease, meaning that there is something inside, there are things inside of us, right, that should not necessarily exist, right? And these things are deeply rooted, right? Some of the isms in the world, not all, some of the isms in the world, right? And all these things, there are a lot of things rooted inside of us, deeply rooted inside of us, that should not exist, right? So in our hearts there is hatred, there's hatred, there's greed, there's lust, there's anger, there's all these things, right? Of course there are certain things that we should be angry about. There's certain things that happen and it's like how or why, right? But it is to know that within our sense, our core, right, there are certain things, and it is referred to in the Quran as disease, right? Disease. There's disease in the heart, right? So it's to recognize these things, pay attention to it, notice it, and try to change or correct it, right? People ask you concerning the hour, meaning the hour of release from this earth, right? Or the hour of consequence, or the hour of reward, or whatever it may be, right? People ask you concerning the hour. Knowledge of this is with Allah only, right? Or you who have believed, right? Speak words of appropriate justice, right? Then Allah will amend for you your deeds and forgive you for your sins, right? And whoever obeys Allah has certainly attained a great attainment, right? So La ilaha illallah, right? That is the great attainment, right? Recognizing that there is no God but Allah, there is no God but Allah, right? La ilaha illallah, right? That is the great attainment, right? So we'll continue through this process until I complete the book, right? Which might be this year, right? Might not be, dependent, right? Take care, everybody.